These are the key things a PC needs. So let's see what they all do. The CPU is the brain, but the brain can get quite hot, so it needs a cooler. The GPU sees what the brain is thinking and shows everything on your monitor. RAM is the short-term memory, remembering the tabs and applications that you have open. SSD is the long-term memory, so will remember all of your files. All of these components have to go somewhere, so they sit nicely on your motherboard.
It's like building Lego.
The PSU is the power supply of the system, and the case stores everything inside.
Now that you know what everything does, let's start with the case.
I found this case on Amazon, and I thought it looked nice, and when compared to similar cases, it turned out to be £30 cheaper. Plus it has extra fans, so it was an obvious pick. It comes with a dust filter on top, but no dust filter for these fans. So I also got some dust filter mesh and magnetic tape to create my own custom dust filters for the case fans. I'll get on to why I'm doing this later, but first, all good cases need a motherboard. I chose this motherboard from Oris, and after carefully removing the packaging, putting it in the case and screwing it in, it was time for the next component, the CPU. I wanted to make a NASA PC, so I did go for the very top of Intel's lineup and got an i9-14900KF. The letters at the end of the CPU name stands for overclockable, no integrated graphics. If you don't need or want a GPU, make sure you go with the integrated graphics, otherwise you'll have no image. To put the CPU in, you must undo the latch, lift up the cover, gently set the CPU in, and then secure it down with the latch.
Feels like it's gonna break.
Next, we've got the Kraken AIO from NZXT. This comes with 3 120mm fans, which have to be mounted to the radiator. Mount the fans by screwing the screws diagonally to allow for an even distribution of pressure. And then we're going to mount this as an exhaust fan to the top of the case. All you have to do is screw the radiator to the mounting bracket, and that's you done. The exhaust fan has a dust filter, but the intake fans don't, which doesn't really make sense because that's the one that's going to be bringing in the dust. And that's why earlier I got some dust filter mesh and magnetic tape to make my own dust filter. Now, the CPU block has to go over the CPU, otherwise my CPU might genuinely melt when I turn the PC on. Place this mounting bracket on the back of the motherboard through the holes, and then screw the standoffs into the bracket. The AIO header comes with pre-applied thermal paste. Place the 4 sections of the bracket onto the standoffs and secure the AIO header in place with 4 screws provided. And just like that, AIO is in. Next, I'm going to put in the RAM. To insert the RAM, open the tab on the slots that you want to put your RAM into. Check your motherboard user manual for advice, as basically every motherboard supports dual channel. This motherboard is slots 2 and 4, so in goes the RAM. And that's it. Just push them in until the tabs click shut. I always fear this is gonna happen though. Try not to do that. Moving on to the GPU. Unscrew the plates, open the tab, take off the connector's cover, and slowly push it in until you hear that satisfying click. And remember to screw the GPU into place with the 2 screws you unscrewed earlier. Now the GPU's in, let's get the main storage in. There are 2 types of storage, SSD and HDD. Here are the differences. However, long story short, SSD is better, but it is more expensive. I have to install both, so let's get to it. The SSD couldn't get simpler. You've got to put it into the M.2 slot, which is often covered by a heatsink. Just remove the heatsink, remove this plastic, insert the SSD at a 45-degree angle, press it down, lock it in with the locking mechanism, and finally replace the heatsink onto the motherboard. That was really easy. The HDD, however, does not directly slot onto the motherboard. Instead, it's usually hidden away in the back of the case and connected via a cable. Most cases have a designated place to put these drives. Just slot the HDDs into this cage, screw them in with the provided screws, and that's it. All you need to do now is put this entire thing into the bottom of the case. Connect the hard drives with a SATA cable, then thread the SATA cable into the motherboard.
I've only got 2 more things to do, so let's get to it.
These fans are super easy to mount to the case. Just thread the wires to the back, place it wherever it needs to be, line up the holes, screw in some screws, and just like that, boom, another case fan. Last on my list is the power supply and cable management, everybody's favourite part. The case cables usually connect at the bottom of the motherboard. You can pull the excess wire to the back of the case. This blue USB 3.0 cable connects here along the right hand side of the motherboard. The front panel connectors connect to the bottom right just under the GPU. Now let's connect some wires. Let's connect the 24-pin ATX cable and the CPU cable to the motherboard, and the PCIe cable into the graphics card. Close your eyes for the jump scare. Now we've got to put the PSU in underneath the case and hide all of these wires. Now once it's in and neat and tidy, it's time to put the back of the case on. Best of luck, my friends. It literally bulges outwards from the cables. That's it. Now that everything's inside, let's put the glass panel back on. And all you have to do now is turn it on. Wait. Don't forget to turn it on at the back.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a like, share it with a friend, and if you want to stick around, give it a subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.